my lifestyle was very unhealthy and I needed to break out of this cycle. I ended up going to hospital with gastroenteritis from alcoholism. I just felt hopeless. I couldn't do it. There's nothing more I could do. I woke up and I felt like a completely different person. This mental fog that felt like had been a cloud my entire life. I would get anxiety and paranoia at the same time quite often. It could be very effective in addiction recovery. The best I'd felt in years was when I was fasting with butter. I just felt amazing from the second day. The year of sobriety, after about 6 months of it, I was really, really suffering. There's not a day goes by that I even think about having any kind of sugar. I know there's a solution out there. You don't need drugs. Alcohol, the thought of it is just repulses me now.
Hey folks, it's Dr. ShawnBaker here. Hey, if you or someone you love is suffering from chronic disease and you're tired of just managing symptoms with potions, pills, and procedures, I want you to check out Revero.com. Our team of dedicated professionals is committed to tackling the root cause of your issue and finally getting you healthy. Hurry up, though. Our spaces are filling up very quickly. Welcome. Today we have with us Frank, who's going to share, I assume, some sort of a success story. I believe there's some mental health stuff that goes in this. But Frank, maybe just introduce yourself a little bit. Tell us about your background, and then we can get into this.
Hi, Dr. Baker. Thanks for having me. My name is Frank. I'm 43 years old. I'm a kind of an ex-pastry chef. I'm moving out of the industry. I've recently retrained as a naturopathic practitioner. So my background, I started cooking when I was 16, but I never really wanted to be a chef then. I didn't know what to do with my life. And it took me until I was 32 years of age to bite the bullet, and I retrained in pastry. So I've been working as a pastry chef for the past 10 years. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's an interesting background for what I believe will be a carnivorous sort of transition, I suppose. As a young adult, I did a lot of different jobs before I went into medicine. And one of them was working in a restaurant. I bussed tables, I washed dishes, I delivered meals for room service because I was at a hotel. It's hard work, man. I mean, that whole restaurant stuff, and I don't know how, maybe I don't know how you were doing it, but that's a hard occupation to be in. Is that a fair statement? I don't know what it's like over in the UK, but I assume it might be.
Yes, very much so. As I said, I took a deep love for cooking when I was 16, when I first discovered restaurants. But I always saw it on TV, and I was like, I'm not doing that. And cooking steaks in this boiling hot kitchen, and it's just mayhem. But it really got to the stage in my life where I'd loved it for so long, for over half my life, that I didn't know what direction I was taking in my life. So I actually went to Thailand at the age of 26 to teach English. So I was there for 6 years, and I actually retrained at Le Cordon Bleu, the famous French school in Bangkok, and then I came back to the UK to start working. So going into that environment at the age of 32, all the other chefs were, even my head chef was younger than me. And they've all been doing it for 10 years, and it's like you're sort of being bossed around by people that are younger than you. It was an interesting experience, but yeah.
Okay, so tell me, obviously if you're baking, I assume you probably have to at least taste them to see if they're edible. I guess you get used to a recipe, particularly when you're trying out a new recipe, but you just kind of like, and obviously in baking, particularly if it's sweets, there's a lot of sugar involved and stuff like that. So how did that impact either your health or anything that it might have affected?
So, I never really knew what level of a sugar addiction spectrum I was on. I just knew that I liked desserts as much as I did cuisine, or maybe not as much. I mean, I love cuisine, and that was the main thing I cooked. But I would always bake a cake here and there. The reason I chose pastry was because I just thought it would be not so, it's not as hot for a start. You're in the cooler side of the kitchen, and I do have a creative personality, and I can see the artistry behind desserts. Obviously, patisserie. A lot of people don't understand that the word patisserie and pastry chef encompasses the entire spectrum of the sweet kitchen. So you could be a viennoiserie chef and you're making croissants. That's your speciality, or you go into fine dining in a restaurant and you're plating, you're creating all these elements of desserts with all the ice creams and everything. So that's the area that the first, it wasn't even a question. It was where can I find a job? And the first job I found was in a fine dining restaurant. So um, I did. I had been baking sourdough probably for about 10 years before that, just playing around at home. So I ended up changing all of the bread in the restaurant because I had quite good knowledge there. So regarding tasting things, yes, when you're creating your own menu, which became quite, I actually moved up to run the section quite early on, and I had to create the seasonal menus. And so when you're creating the dish, you taste to your recipe. Then the recipe is set in stone, and then from then on, you don't really need to taste anymore. You can it's, you follow the recipe and you give the recipe to someone else, and they can do that job. Or so there is elements of tasting in pastry, and obviously there's always the temptation to taste the products. It took me probably about half of my career, like 5 years in, before I stopped really tasting the stuff all day long, realizing that it's not, you just kind of go down. If you've got to keep your energy up 12, 16, sometimes 18-hour days. And any amount of sugar is not going to be helpful. So
Yeah, so a lot of people say, and I like desserts. I mean, I loved them. I mean, I don't eat them anymore, but I mean, I certainly didn't find them. Like, I know there's people that switch over to Carnivore. They say, "Oh, this stuff is horrible and awful and disgusting. It doesn't taste good." It's not my opinion. I think it still tastes very good. But at the same time, I'm fortunate that I just don't want it anymore, which is kind of cool. Okay, so let's talk about how. I mean, I guess obviously there's a success story, so there must have been a starting point. So where were you on your health journey? I guess maybe a few years ago, or however long this story goes.
So it's easy for me to go very far back and sort of be as quick as possible about it. But I struggled at school. I found marijuana very early on, at the age of 12. And then my sort of experimentation with drugs got harder and harder through my teens. I didn't pass any of my what do you call that? My GCSEs, so high school qualifications. I always felt a bit behind. Also, drugs didn't help. Then you find alcohol at 16, and it escalated for me. I didn't really find a proper career. I loved music. I was DJing from when I was 12 also. I did go to music college, but I didn't really make anything of that. And then I just floated through jobs until my mid-20s, when I realized my lifestyle was very unhealthy, and I needed to break out of this cycle of, I mean, it was just stay up all weekend and then go to, I'd be working in a call center or something like this, and it was just a cycle of this. And so that was what made me make the leap to Thailand. I was like, right, I need to get out of this. So I moved off to Thailand at 26, and trained as a ESL teacher there. Didn't have the diploma, so it was a big thing for me to break out of my shell and go do something like that. So I found teaching really difficult. In front of, I'm very much of an introvert, and I'm not really someone that tells people what to do. So I had to really learn on my feet very fast, and I found it very stressful. And although I was away from my my kind of drug taking, there's hot country, and I was drinking alcohol very heavily at the weekends to sort of get myself through this new stressful job or career. So after 2 years of continuing to drink very heavily, I ended up going to hospital with gastroenteritis from alcoholism. So I stayed in the hospital for 2 days and thought, and it was one of those another moments in my life where I thought I need to really, really have a think about what I'm doing with myself here. So I came out of the hospital and I immediately started running. And I pretty much didn't stop for 2 years. And so I managed to, I was sober for the whole 2 years. I took to running very well. My father was actually the athletics coach in my city here, Brighton, for 15 years. He tried to get me into it when I was younger, but I didn't really take to it. And he recalls it as the best 2 years of his life. I was just documenting and telling him over the phone then where I was coming in races, and so I performed pretty well. I ran 1:19 on the half and 35 on the 10K. That was pretty fast in Asian times, and I'd often come in the top five. So that was when I retrained in pastry, and it all got a bit much, and the training and the work and everything on top of my training slipped off, and I fell out. And then I came back to the UK, and I met my old friends and came into a new, very, very stressful new career. And I just fell back into the old habits, and I continued pretty much as I was in my teens and early 20s through my mid 30s. And I got to about the age of 35, and I was just so worn out with 70-hour weeks and not sleeping at the weekend and really not looking after myself. And that's when I started to look to nutrition. Obviously, I have a grounding in cooking, being a cook from since I was at the age of 16, very crazily obsessively every day I would cook. And so I, took to nutrition experts. I think it was originally Rich Roll's podcast, the vegan ultra runner, that sparked my attention, and I discovered I think it was the gut health expert, the vegan one, Will Bolshewitz, and I read his book Fiber Fueled. So I had a little stint of veganism very early on for 6 months, and it didn't go that well for me, to be honest. I didn't feel great. I think I've struggled with gut issues my entire life, and I felt very gassy and bloated, and it was difficult. So I continued down the rabbit hole of podcasts and nutrition, and I found Dr. Mark Hyman, and I heard him talking about the way you can obtain phytonutrients through grass-fed meat, and this very much sparked my attention. So I dove through Mark Hyman's work, hundreds of hours of podcasts, and then found Dave Asprey. And then that took me to bulletproof fasting, and just sort of 5 years of experimentation with a kind of cyclical keto diet, adding in some more carbs here and there for training, and just but what was always in the background is my sweet tooth, and also my sort of addictive personality. So I also I very recently did an ADHD test, and I came up very high on the autism spectrum. So I can link this back to my behavior from when I was young, and sort of the difficulties that I've had. So I continued on this journey, playing around with my macros and having more fat and less fat. And also I was always consuming I just believed in the whole plant diversity. I just believed that we needed this, big array of plants to feed ourselves, to nourish ourselves properly. So I don't know how how deep a ketosis I was ever really in, apart from when I was fasted. Because I was always, having salads with 30 ingredients. I was growing my own sprouts and microgreens, and there's just so much fiber and, I was having gut issues every day, to be honest, but I was just thinking I was doing the right thing. I was still consuming quality animal proteins along with all of this, but so it took me, sort of 5 years of experimentation with all of this and I actually finally got completely sober after the death of my father, which was 2 years ago. A couple of months afterwards, I realized I need to, every time I have a drink, it turns into partying for days. And so I managed to get sober, and then I felt I was still having this, what I thought the most optimized diet you can have. Everything's organic. Everything's home prepared by me. I'd rarely eat out. I hadn't been eating seed oils for the past 5 years. And I was deeply depressed in this first year of sobriety. And I mean, I'm cold plunging every morning. I'm saunaing. I'm lifting weights. I'm sprinting, and I just felt hopeless. I couldn't do it. There's nothing more I could do. So that's what led me to Carnivore. And I had, obviously, being in this loop of nutrition, you get once you've discovered Dave Asprey, I'd listened to Paul Saladino and yourself probably 4 years before I even thought about trying it myself. And I listened to a podcast here and there, and then it just kept resurfacing to me, and I kept hearing things about mental health benefits, mental clarity. So I just decided to bite the bullet one day, and that is about 11 months ago now. So yeah.
Okay, so I want to go back a little bit, ask a question. It's just for my own curiosity. I mean, you're training at Le Cordon Bleu, which obviously one of the top, chef schools in the world, I suppose. I mean, I know there's like the CIA in America, the Culinary Institute.
Yeah.
Do they? I mean, it seems like using real, fresh, whole ingredients improves the quality of a meal. And philosophically, I mean, do they think about the health consequences of the food that they're preparing? Is that even part of the curriculum, or is it just how to make it taste good? And here are the tricks we can use, and maybe it's not very healthy for us. Or what are the thoughts around that? I know the French cooking use a lot of fat typically, and so obviously there's people who think fat is bad for you. I don't share that opinion, but I mean, there are people that think it. So is there any kind of curriculum on healthfulness of food when you're becoming a chef?
There is not. So I exclusively did pastry. You can do the double diploma where you do cuisine as well. I don't. I mean, you would have thought there might be there could possibly be part of a module on it in the cuisine section, but I'm not sure. I know that I think now you can do accessory courses that I expect there's probably one that's more based in nutrition, but these two main diplomas are just about technique, classic French technique. There wasn't a word mentioned about nutrition in particularly in the pastry side. Whether there is in the cuisine, I don't know, but I'm not expecting much.
Yeah, I guess it would be a hard sell saying pastries are a health food. I mean, I guess there's, like my understanding, like you go to like a typical supermarket grocery store and you order a birthday cake. I mean, I think they take confectioner's sugar and Crisco, blend it up and make that as their frosting, which to me just sounds like the worst thing in the world. And, I guess it has mechanical properties that allow for better, whatever, coverage or something like that. But I guess, I don't know. It's a kind of interesting thing. Okay, so 11 months ago, you sort of discover this carnivore sort of thing. So tell me about how does that go?
So as I say, I was just consuming more and more content as this is a year into sobriety, and I was consuming more and more carnivore content, and I was hearing more and more success stories. And with my experimentations with diet, I just thought I can try this myself. I can just do it. I've just got to bite the bullet. And it took me a month of procrastination, but I pretty much did it overnight. I kept in a few condiments for the first couple of days, and then I just took them out after you start to research more, and even black pepper can have an effect on some people. So I slowly took them all out. So yeah, so as I say, I jumped in overnight, just from consuming content and thinking I've got to give it a go because I'm in desperate need.
Now, are you in Brighton? You're in Brighton at this time when you start this?
Yes.
Okay. So yeah, because I mean, Thailand has. I'm sure you can get meat in Thailand. Probably a lot of it's imported from Australia would be my guess, but particularly beef. But how?
Oh, so sorry. Did you say was I in Thailand?
No, I was assuming you're in Brighton when this is occurring, but
In Brighton, yeah, I was in Brighton.
yeah. So I
I
mean,
was in
it's
Brighton.
not hard to get meat in the UK. I mean, I was just thinking, I was just speculating that in Thailand it might be a little less available, but certainly they have Australia, which exports a lot to there, I think. Okay, so how do you get started? What happens to you when you start?
So it was actually pretty miraculous for me. I so it was a Sunday, and I had I had a last piece of bread, but it was a very meat heavy breakfast, and then I had an only animal foods dinner, and then I repeated the next day, and I felt fine. I didn't feel any different. But then on the second day, I woke up, and I woke up and I felt like a completely different person. It was that immediate. I mean, was with such clarity that it is probably one of the most memorable days of my life. I mean, I actually went to the sea and got in the sea at 6 in the morning, roughly, something like that. And it was a beautiful sunny day because it was the beginning of summer. And I actually recorded myself on my phone that's something I would never do. I actually posted it on Instagram very recently. It got quite a big exposure. But I was just that amazed at the difference in how I felt. It was sort of just this mental fog that felt like had been a cloud my entire life just lifted. And then there was also the joint inflammation and things. I've always struggled with my upper back. It's still not perfect. I've been always hunched over as a chef, but it felt dramatically better. And then it's all the knee joints and things. And I kind of felt like when I was walking to the beach, I felt like I was almost like levitating, like floating along. It was just stunningly amazing.
Okay, so you said you had your first animal-based meal. I mean, what was it? I mean, were you clearing dairy products, eggs, meat, different lamb, whatever? What were you eating? Hey, folks, it's Dr. ShawnBaker here. Hey, if you or someone you love is suffering from chronic disease and you're tired of just managing symptoms with potions, pills, and procedures, I want you to check out Revero.com. Our team of dedicated professionals is committed to tackling the root cause of your issue and finally getting you healthy. Hurry up, though. Our spaces are filling up very quickly.
I was including cheese. I was like, this is going to help me through this. So I included cheese and creme fraiche for the first 2 weeks, and then I actually. So if I tell you, I think I dodged a bullet in terms of the fat adaptation and electrolyte issues. I got one headache on day 5. And then, so I continued eating quite a bit of cheese with everything and butter and eggs. It was just predominantly beef, lamb, eggs, butter, and some pork. And then after 2 weeks, I thought, okay, let's try this full lion diet. And I only did it for 2 weeks. I kind of wish I did it for longer now. And then I sort of brought some dairy products back, but I was, not too heavy on the dairy products from thereafter. But yeah.
Okay. And so, I mean, I guess if you would contrast where you were, day one versus maybe now you're, I guess, 11 months later, what has been the principal differences that you've noticed?
So, I mean, as I say, I've been 11 months now. It's been a journey. I have not had any of the depressive thoughts or the brain fog or anxiety. I would get anxiety and paranoia at the same time quite often. This was often sort of from hangovers. That it was much worse, but still, it was still always there. And I haven't had a sniff of any of that since. As I say, I've been sober for 2 years. There hasn't been a one day where I thought about alcohol. I did manage to do it on my own a year before anyway, and I knew it was the right thing to do, and I've been strict on myself. But there had been moments where stressful moments in life, and you go, oh, maybe I'll have a drink now, and there hasn't been any thoughts like that. So I think it's very effective in it could be very effective in addiction recovery, all addictions, whether it's sugar addiction or alcoholism, So I would say that on the journey, I've had to readjust a few things. I put on a little bit of weight in the middle. I think I was consuming a bit too much dairy. I've kind of leaned myself out a little bit now. I have kept a pretty high fat carnivore diet because I've known that that's, some keep the ketones nice and high. And I've been sort of playing around with reducing my fats lately, and it seems to be I feel pretty good, and it's definitely having an effect on my body composition. And so, as I say, it is a journey.
Have there been some negatives? I mean, that's always a fair question. A lot of people say a lot of upside, downsides for you, if any. Maybe. I mean, obviously there's the restriction in the diet and the social stuff, but I mean, as far as any physical negatives that you've noticed?
The one thing for me is the deep the it's something that I've overcome, I think, now. But I did have, as much as many people report better sleep. um I sleep. I've tracked my sleep for about the past 4 years. I now have an Aura ring. I've had it for 3 or 4 years. And I had to adjust my meal timings, because if I cut my calories too early, I wake up. I guess because I'm in a deep state of ketosis, I wake up very, very early, and I'm a quite a light sleeper, and so I find it hard to get back to sleep. So I would sometimes get only 5 hours of sleep. Um, Although my sleep score, the sleep quality is still always good, I've found on Carnivore, but sometimes it's a little bit too little. If I don't have a dinner around sort of between 4 and 6. Um, so because I'm someone that usually likes to eat quite early, I was playing around with feeding windows before Carnivore, and I would eat breakfast and lunch and not have dinner, and I was fine, and I would actually sleep through then. But I noticed on Carnivore, I need to eat later in order to get more sleep. It's a minor, and I overcame it, and so that's really the only thing. And as I say, it does isolate you a little bit socially, but I prioritize my own health and well-being at this stage in my life. So
Yeah, I think there is a relationship between hunger, satiety, and sleep. And you think about it from just a basic principle level. If you are hungry and sleeping, and then you wake up early because your body said, I need to go get some food. I need to go chase down some food or hunt food or something along those lines. So kind of makes sense in that regard. Now, I think the opposite. A lot of people see that problem where they overconsume food late at night, and then it disrupts their sleep for other reasons. Maybe they have to get to the bathroom to excrete, urea from the nitrogen. Do you, you're not working as a pastry chef anymore, or are you? What are you doing these days?
no, so I'm building my naturopathic practice
That's right.
online on Instagram, but I mean it's carnivore coaching now because this is kind of my life now. So, but I got my diploma around about this time last year. So I was studying is the College of Naturopathic Medicine in London. Obviously, it's a good grounding in biochemistry. It's very much plant forward what you're taught there. So it's a bit of an exit from the teachings there, but I have it behind my name now. But I am building my presence on Instagram. Is I think people are starting to recognize me as the guy that talks about mental health and the connection between diet, and they very much know that I'm carnivore too. So
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been talking about this for the better part of a decade with regard to just what I was observing every day. People's mental health getting clearly better when they switch their diet to a meat focused diet or a carnivore diet. That was clearly happening and continues to happen. Unfortunately, we're getting more research that corroborates that. What's, obviously with the background you have, cooking pastries, do you utilize that in your own life now? I mean, obviously carnivore restricts a lot of the ingredients you can use. Now you're down to a lot less eggs, dairy, meats of various sources. Do you play with some of that stuff? Are you creative in the kitchen when it comes to carnivore, or do you just? I'm very lazy. I'm just going to cook a
I
steak and go. But what are your thoughts?
well, this is another part to it, you see, because of my I guess it's a part of my neurodivergence. I've always it cooking has sort of ruled my life. Obviously going into be a professional chef, you don't have so much time to cook and things like this, but I would still make a big effort of it when I had time off and things. But the freedom that I've gained from it, because I used to go to the supermarket. I mean, I'd walk around there because I was so obsessed with ingredients, and I wouldn't find the thing I wanted, and I'd walk out and then I'd go, I haven't got anything, and then I'd have to go back, and I'd be like, and I mean, I'd spend an hour looking at packets and things and going, oh, I don't want to eat that, I can't eat that, because I've got so picky about nutrition. So for me, it is just been, it's just simplified my life. I mean, I haven't done anything creatively carnivore, to be honest, yet. I, I, it's two meals a day. I've just got beef and lamb in the fridge and eggs, and it's the same thing every day. And I'm so happy with that. I'm just so happy. It's just, it means I can get on with so many other things. Cooking's great, and it was a great, it was an outlet for me, a recreational thing. But I'm just there's just so many benefits to carnivore that aren't just about physical, human benefits.
You'd mentioned obviously the mental health side of it. Cognitively, do you feel it's made a difference for you?
100%. I mean, as I said, the best I'd felt in years was when I was fasting with butter, and I'd feel good in that part of the morning, and then I would eat. I mean, I would take all my own lunches because I was very particular. I wouldn't eat food at work. I wouldn't eat what they provided. I was just like, no, I'm not going to eat that stuff. And even it was quite good in some places too. And I'd have my like microgreen salad with mackerel and things like that. And then uh, I would be cycling home, and I'd be feeling, anxious and a bit like sort of depression is coming again, and gut issues, and so yeah, I mean that's my experience there. Yeah.
You said you prefer kind of a higher fat version, which many people do. How has that impacted your body composition? Because a lot of people say you have to eat very lean to get lean. What has been your experience with that?
Well, I that this is the part actually. I started to gain weight in the middle of my
Mhm.
journey, about 6 months in. I was, as I said, I brought dairy back, and I have raw cheeses throughout the week, quite sparingly. But I've been adding a lot of butter. I've been eating a lot of butter all the time, using it almost like a sauce, but not. I don't really. I don't melt it, but I mean, using it as a condiment kind of thing. And I think I was just overdoing it. And I have seen the trend going towards. I mean, I know yourself. I can see that you eat fairly high protein. And I've seen the trending towards some influencers, let's say, like Dr. Shawn using the kind of higher protein approach, and seeming to be doing very well off of it. I was genuinely just keeping my fats high because I just want to keep myself in the place I'm in, because I'm kind of frightened of getting out of this headspace. But it's been the last month. I started to work out a lot more, so I did get my body composition closer to where I wanted it to be, with keeping the high fat. And now I've been cutting the fat for the past just over a week. And I feel really good. And I'm just not adding butter to anything. I'm just eating ruminant meat with its associated fat, some eggs. In fact, yeah, I didn't eat too many eggs for quite a while, but I've just brought eggs back in for a minute now, because I'm using that kind of like as a sauce, just to take away from the subtraction of butter. So, as I say, it's all a progressive learning journey.
Yeah. So, I mean, as far as that, you use a higher fat approach. It helps significantly, particularly the mental health approach. And then you're still on a high fat diet relative to anybody else that would be considering it, because, if you're eating red meat, eggs, things like that, the fat is still going to be relatively high to a standard diet. Standard diet, the fat is about 30% by calorie. You're probably 55, 60, 65% with that. And as opposed to adding lots of added fats, getting up into that ketogenic 80% range. So it's still high fat, but yet not ultra high fat. So that's interesting. And that's something like myself, that's what I rarely add fat to my diet. I mean, other than what comes in the meat. And that seems to do quite well for me. Um, What I mean, obviously within the naturopath space, by the way, what is the name of your, you said Instagram, I think, or what is the name of your social media stuff so people can find you?
So yeah, on Instagram, I'm the Frank Wright
The
underscore.
Frank, what was the last part?
The Frank Wright,
Like
WRIGHT
the Wright brothers, for
underscore.
those people that remember.
Yes,
The
yes.
Frank Wright. All right. And how has that been received online? I mean, I, when I started years ago, lots and lots of criticism. There's still quite a bit of criticism, but more and more people are accepting and have experienced themselves, so they get it. But are you getting a lot of negativity? Is it mostly positive comments? How does that seem to play out?
It's surprisingly mostly positive. There's obviously a lot of curiosity. You get people that are not, they're still just not aware of the benefits of low carb ketogenic eating, and then obviously it becomes quite extreme when you're just eating meat. Um, you get the odd crazy vegan here and there, but apart from that, I've had I, it's been great. I've had some quite good social growth. I've got some of the big accounts have been helping me. So Dr. Kiltz has been collaborating with me. Um, and it's really helped with the growth and helped to get the message out there. I think it was February I got 1 million views, which was pretty impressive. So
Oh,
yeah,
wonderful. That's
I was
awesome.
happy
Yeah,
with
it's
that.
good to get the information out there. How about family? Family concern, happy, perplexed. What's going on with that? Or do you have much contact?
So mum's a hard one. It's never gonna. It's always going to be difficult to get your mum to just start only eating meat and stop eating cereal for breakfast. I mean, it kills me. I would guess she's pre-diabetic. I think she is, unfortunately, and I have influenced her a bit. She's eating a bit more, at least a bit more bacon more often, and eggs. But that aside, my sister, who probably 1 year ago would never have dreamt that she would be only eating ribeyes now, which she is. She's struggled with mental health as much as me her entire life. I think it runs in my family. In fact, one of my brothers has actually been signed off from work for most of his life. My other brother is type 1 diabetic,
Mm.
and I have been influencing him slowly about the the efficacy of low carb, and you can actually control insulin on, without the carbs. I put Dr. Bernstein's book his way. I send him everything I can, and he's not he's almost there. He's meat focused now. He's understanding that you can switch between fats and carbs. Like I'm saying, if you're eating lean meat, have your sweet potato or what have you, but try some days just eating fatty meat and just forget the carbs. And he's having some experiments there. His blood sugar is in better control. His son is autistic, very heavily autistic. Unfortunately, he doesn't see him as much as he'd like, but I do say, look, just every time he's with you, just feed him, just feed him beef, please. So yeah.
The what was I going to ask you here? The the transition to carnivore is sometimes a stressful experience for some people. Did you have any like transition symptoms, anything like that?
I didn't at all. No, I had, as I say, I had one headache on day 5. I was very lucky. I just felt amazing from the second day, just absolutely amazing. And then it was just electrolyte issues throughout the week. So I was very lucky considering like I was, I'd done the gut microbiome testing the year before, and I was doubling down. Like every day for me, like a salad would have 20 ingredients, and I'd have like a Greek yogurt with berries, and I'd have like every single type of nut and seed on that. And just thinking, just more. I'm just my brain's very complex. And I like to just make my life really complicated for some reason. So there's coconut chips, there's dark chocolate. I mean, obviously being a pastry chef, I always source the very best dark chocolate. But so I went from that to meat almost overnight, and it's surprising that I got through that. Yeah.
Yeah, and from a appetite standpoint, here's a question I wanted to ask you. So, you'd said for many, many years you had very depressive type feelings and thoughts. Had you ever sought any kind of professional help for that? Did you ever go seek out, help from a healthcare provider? And if so, how did that go?
So it took me so really it was, I always dealt with these thoughts and feelings with alcohol and drugs. It was always the solution for me, and it always worked. It just worked. I mean, I have 2 drinks, and any of this ruminating thoughts just vanish. So getting sober, knowing that was what I had to do, was difficult, but I just did it. I just said, that's it. I said one day, I said, that's it, not again. I tried 4 times in the past 4 years. It's because obviously that was the beginning of my discovery in nutrition. So I was really looking after myself nutritionally, and I was drinking less, but I would just fall off the wagon. And then once I've gone, and then it's another 2 weeks of, feeling like crap. And so the year of sobriety, as I said, after about 6 months of it, I was really, really suffering. And I went to the doctor. I went to get the ADHD test. I talked about antidepressants. I didn't want to do it because I'm down the health rabbit hole for years. And I know there's a solution out there. You don't need drugs. But I just couldn't find it yet. So I had a therapist for that entire year. Looking back, I think she wasn't quite right. I didn't get much relief from it. It was helpful in some ways, but so that's really, as I say, I didn't seek any help until I got sober.
Many people notice that Carnivore particularly has been very good with dealing with like cravings and addictions and desire. Do you find that by going carnivore, the desire to drink or do any of these things has improved, or even desire to eat bad food has improved?
I mean, there's not a day goes by that I even think about having any kind of sugar. I just don't need it. Alcohol, the thought of it is just repulses me now. I mean, honestly, I feel like just the thought of it is like, no. So it's very interesting to think that if I'd have, to think back, if I'd have managed to commit to carnivore when I was still in this cycle of, alcoholism and drug abuse, I believe it would just shut that up. If you can manage to get through a transition, it could be so powerful as a tool for addiction, I think.
Yeah, I echo that. I'm shocked that you have people that go to these drug and alcohol rehab treatment centers and they feed them complete garbage. And it's like, this is not helping the physiology. Well, Frank, this has been very very insightful and very inspiring. And I thank you for doing this. Once again, remind people where they can go. I mean, I think you said Instagram, the Frank Wright _ is there any other place or anything else you want to mention before we go?
I'm mostly just trying to focus on Instagram at the moment. I'm on all the other socials with the same handle. I'd like to start YouTube very soon. Need to stop procrastinating about that. I did actually interview Dr. Anka Verma on Instagram Live, and so it's my first.
Oh yeah, I interviewed.
YouTube,
He's quite
YouTube
from
video,
India. He's an interesting fellow. Yeah, I talked to him a couple months
he's
ago.
great.
Yeah.
He's brilliant.
Okay.
So I've got a school group where I like to talk about the benefits of carnivore for mental health. I've got some nice members in there now, and it's totally free. So if anybody would like to join, it's at the link is in my bio on Instagram.
All right. Well, awesome. Thank you so much for doing this. Good luck to you and continue with your success. And thanks again for doing this. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Dr. Baker.